Hi, did you know that about 1 in 3 people are introverts? Well, that just shows you that introversion is a major part of our society. I am an introvert myself, and when I was younger, I was forced into many social situations I didn't want to be in. Even today, I feel pretty awkward talking to almost anyone. On the other side of the spectrum, we have extroverts, people who thrive on socialization. A lot of people probably don't think about these two groups as separate, but the truth is that there is a rather large imbalance between introverts and extroverts, favoring extroverts.
Culturally, we need a much better balance. We need more of a yin and yang between these two types. This is especially important when it comes to creativity and to productivity, because when psychologists look at the lives of the most creative people, what they find are people who are very good at exchanging ideas and advancing ideas, but who also have a serious streak of introversion in them.
That is Susan Kane, a researcher and author who has devoted her studies to introversion. Thanks to the efforts of Kane and others, the gap between introverts and extroverts is lessening. However, it is still there, and it always has been. It hasn't always favored extroverts either. Before the 20th century, introverts seemed to be favored by society as people were valued more for their character and manners rather than their ability to socialize. This was called the culture of character, which was a dominant feature in society for many centuries. However, once wealth began to be dominated by big corporations, society shifted to becoming a culture of personality, where one's ability to effectively work with and befriend all sorts of people became the main thing valued. This is still the case today, and I'm not saying that an extrovert-dominated society is a bad thing. I'm also not saying that a true balance between introverts and extroverts can be found. In fact, it's impossible, because humans and society aren't perfect. What I am saying is that introverts should be appreciated a little bit more for what they do, because while extroverts may have many great abilities, they are simply placed above introverts because they tend to be better known. There are still many introverts who bring amazing things to society that extroverts simply cannot. With that being said, introverts and extroverts are, simply put, just two different groups of people. According to Dr. Grace Tworek, a health psychologist at the Cleveland Clinic, when we think about introverts and extroverts, a lot of us have preconceived notions. I agree with this, and I also believe that a lot of these preconceptions, especially the stereotyping that comes with them, is wrong. Both introverts and extroverts have their own strengths, weaknesses, and characterizations, and there are different degrees of both introversion and extroversion. It is not simply black and white. In comparing these two groups, introverts tend to be natural listeners, prefer alone time, avoid conflict, consider things carefully, and are creative. On the other hand, extroverts tend to enjoy working in a group, are always up to trying new things, they're impulsive, they talk through problems, and they tend to make friends more easily. This is not to say that one group is better than the other. In fact, introverts and extroverts are equally great, just in different ways. However, introverts seem to be a bit underappreciated in modern society, simply because the most prominent occupations of today do not favor them. Think about it for a second. Politicians, business people, people who work in the medical and economic fields, internet influencers. With a few exceptions, most of these jobs are tailored to extroverts. Does that mean that the concept of introvert power is dead and baseless? Absolutely not. There are many people who are still working to promote introvert power, and at the forefront of this group is Susan Kane. I've discussed Susan Kane a little bit at the beginning of this presentation, but I would now like to go into detail regarding her contributions to creating a better balance between introverts and extroverts. Kane, a self-described introvert, was inspired to research introversion because of her own difficulties with public speaking. Her forays into introversion research culminated in her book Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, which took 7 years to write before being published on January 24th, 2012. The book was received very well, and it made it onto many bestseller lists, including the New York Times bestseller list. In addition to Quiet, Kane had also been preparing to give a speech at the TED 2012 conference on the topic of introversion. This speech was given in February 2012, and it became one of the most popular TED Talks of all time and shined more light than ever on the concept of introvert power. I used a clip from this TED Talk to introduce my topic today, and now I would like to share another clip to begin a call to action to create a better balance between introverts and extroverts.
When it comes to leadership, introverts are routinely passed over for leadership positions, even though introverts tend to be very careful, much less likely to take outsized risks, which is something we might all favor nowadays. And interesting research by Adam Grant at the Wharton School has found that introverted leaders often deliver better outcomes than extroverts do, because when they are managing proactive employees, they're much more likely to let those employees run with their ideas, whereas an extrovert can quite unwittingly kind of get so excited about things that they're putting their own stamp on things, and other people's ideas might not as easily then bubble up to the surface.
Kane's description of the contrast between introvert and extrovert leaders is a great example of the contrast between introverts and extroverts as a whole, and how integrating the two together is not the best way to create a good balance. Introverts should not be forced to do extrovert things, or vice versa. The best way to create this balance is to let introverts do what they do best, and to let extroverts do what they do best, working together to create a better society. They may have different skill sets in some cases, but when things are coordinated, the combination of these skill sets can be amazing. This is what Susan Kane and other introversion researchers believe as well. Ever since her TED Talk, Kane has been fighting for the concept of introvert power, doing further research and helping to apply this concept to reality. Other researchers, and even people who don't specialize in introvert research but were influenced by quiet or other pro-introvert power resources, are also fighting to create a better balance between introverts and extroverts. This is what I want all of you to come away with today. Not much has to be done to create this balance. We just need to let introverts and extroverts stick to their areas of expertise and lessen the gap between the two groups by not forcing integration and just letting them work together. Thank you.